I have created an entire team that hate the manager they play for, and we're going to simulate one season to see how that's going to affect their performances. And for this experiment, we've chosen Brentford because they're expected to finish about mid-table, and we recently did a similar experiment where we made an entire team of players that hate their club, and we saw some pretty crazy results there. There were some pretty significant things that happened in that video. So we're going to do something very similar here by going into Brentford's squad. And again, what we've done is we've gone to each player's personal details, gone to their disliked people, and made Thomas Frank, the manager of Brentford, a permanently disliked person. So every single player here, from Flucken to Emblemo, so on and so forth, if we go all the way down to even Ben Winterbottom here. All of these players absolutely hate Thomas Frank. And we're going to see how that's going to affect Brentford in game. In particular, we're going to be looking at Thomas Frank. Is he going to be able to keep his job? Or even better yet, could he win his squad back over? Thomas Frank has some really interesting attributes, but notably, he has excellent motivating and excellent people management skills. With that good motivating and people management, this suggests he might be able to manage a locker room that doesn't like him that much. He could still find a way to motivate his players, and in doing so, Brentford still might be pretty decent. And we did do a similar type of experiment of FM23, but we did it with Celtic. We did it with a team that's essentially overpowered for their league. So we're going to see if we can see some more significant results by playing with Brentford, who we've already established that at least a dislike for a club yields some significant results. So by taking a team in mid-table, where really it could go either way, we're going to see if anything interesting happens. With that in mind, this is Brentford, and if we look at the squad, this is the Brentford squad. They all hate Thomas Frank. They hate the manager they play for. We're going to simulate forward one season to see what happens. So I'm going to complete the sim, and I will see you all sometime in May. All right, welcome back. We are at the end of the season, 31st of May, and in available jobs, Brentford is not one of them. Is Thomas Frank still there, or did he leave earlier in the season? Let's see how they did. Looking at the stages, Brentford finished in 13th. A poor end to the season. -9 goal differential. But they still won 12 matches and finished in a very respectable 13th place. Maybe a little bit lower than expected, but nothing to suggest here that they had a horrible season. And looking at them, Thomas Frank is in fact still the coach. So he's there. He managed to keep the team afloat. He did quite well. All right, looking at the players in senior squad, how do the players feel about him? So some players are wanted. Ivan Toney's unhappy. He wants to move to a bigger club. Don't think that's anything necessarily to do with Thomas Frank. See, some players are wanted, but no one is unhappy. It doesn't seem like anyone. Thomas Frank doesn't seem like he's done anything to offend his players. Do they still hate him? So if we look at their personal details, he still hates Thomas Frank. And actually, Emblemo also hates Ivan Toney, apparently. Ivan Toney, how do you feel about Thomas Frank? Just like people, 98 out of 100. I mean, he still kind of hates him. Who's their captain? The captain is Ben Mee, I think. Why don't we look at Ben Mee? How do you feel about Thomas Frank, sir? Nah, they all still don't like Thomas Frank. It seems like Thomas Frank just hasn't done anything to offend the squad, so no one is significantly unhappy with him. I think this is a case of very good locker room management by Mr. Thomas Frank. And looking at job security, Thomas Frank is stable. I mean, even with a kind of poor end to the season, he's done all right. I mean, if we look at their schedule, how'd they do? They had a really poor end to the season. Wow. Wow, that February was tough. But, I mean, for the most part, they did all right until I would say until the end of the season. Oh, they had a bad middle too. They had a after February. They were bad. I mean, they were really bad after February. I mean, maybe once maybe they just needed to hit a bad run of form, but it doesn't seem like the locker room's turned on him. Maybe it's just a little bit more difficult for Thomas Frank to turn the form around, but I mean, overall, they had a fine season. Well, I don't think there's much else to say here, to be honest. We've given Thomas Frank a very difficult job. We've put him in a situation where the entire team that he's managing hates him. I think he's done all right. I think the good motivating, the good people management, I think that's really helped him. He's kept the locker room in balance. The players still hate him, but he's done nothing to offend them. And he's kept them playing decently well, a Brentford team that finished 13th. So well done to Thomas Frank. Well, there you have it. That is an entire team that hates their manager, and the manager and them ended up doing pretty well. That being said, I think there's a lot we can do with this in the context of the game. I think it'd be interesting to see what happens when we're managing a team who hates us. And I think there's more we can do this to potentially look at squad dynamics and how that works with players maybe disliking each other in game. So I think there's some interesting things we can do with this. I think we'll certainly continue along this line. But if you've enjoyed this video, then you might also enjoy the video where we made the entire team of Brentford hate their club. That was the setup for this video, and that one had some really interesting results. So that'll be on your screen now. Check it out if you think that's something you might enjoy. But otherwise, I hope you all are doing well. I hope you all are having a wonderful week, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye.